The detection array hummed softly in the silent observation room as Dr. Park leaned forward in his chair. For 6 months, he had monitored this particular section of space after noticing unusual radiation patterns. Most of his colleagues had dismissed his findings as background noise, but Park's instincts told him otherwise. His eyes widened as the screen before him displayed a clear pattern emerging from the cosmic static. The signals pulse with mathematical precision, 3 short bursts, followed by 2 long ones, repeating at exact intervals. "Director Kim," he called, his voice cracking with excitement. "You need to see this immediately." Across the room, Director Kim looked up from her tablet with slight annoyance. The Seoul Deep Space Monitoring Station operated on a tight budget, and as its director, she was preparing for yet another funding defense to the International Oversight Committee. "This better be important, Park," she said, making her way to his workstation. Dr. Park pointed to the screen where the signal patterns continued their steady rhythm. "Look at the structure, the mathematical sequence. This isn't random radiation." Director Kim's professional composure faltered as she studied the display. The patterns were unmistakable, structured, repeating, and definitely artificial. After decades of searching the cosmos, humanity had finally detected intelligent life. "How far?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Based on signal degradation, approximately 12 light-years. But, Director, there's something else." Dr. Park lowered his voice despite the empty room. "I've been running the signal through our translation algorithms. These aren't broadcasts meant for anyone to hear. They're communications between multiple sources, and they're about us." Kim's eyes narrowed. "Show me." Park pulled up another screen displaying partial translations. The words were fragmented but clear enough. "Earth, resources, primitive defenses, acquisition target. Who else knows about this?" Kim asked. "No one. I wanted confirmation before reporting." Kim straightened her posture. "Lock these findings. Highest security clearance. I need to contact the Security Council immediately." 12 light-years away, Admiral Han of the Galactic Hegemony stood on the observation deck of his command ship, watching the holographic display of a blue-green planet rotating slowly before him. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, just another resource-rich world on the edge of explored space. "The assessment is complete, Admiral," said Commander Lee, entering the deck with a data tablet. He was young for his rank, his ambition having propelled him quickly through the hegemony's military hierarchy. "And?" Han prompted, not taking his eyes off the hologram. "Category 3 world," Lee reported, reading from his tablet. "Technological civilization with primitive space travel capabilities limited to their own star system. Nuclear weapons but no planetary shields or atmosphere defense grid. Divided political structure with multiple competing powers. Optimal conditions for resource acquisition, with minimal resistance expected." Admiral Han nodded thoughtfully. He had overseen the conquest of 17 worlds during his career. Some had surrendered immediately, recognizing the futility of resistance. Others had fought bravely but briefly. None had presented a real challenge to the hegemony's technological superiority. "Population?" he asked. "Approximately 8 billion. Concentrated in coastal urban centers. Their technology suggests no unified defense strategy." Han brought up the invasion protocols on his command console, fingers dancing across the glowing interface. "Prepare the diplomatic corps for first contact. Standard procedure, offer friendship and technological exchange, while we position our battle groups in the neighboring systems." "Yes, Admiral," Lee replied with a slight bow. "The survey team reports Earth possesses significant quantities of rare minerals and biological diversity. The Science Directorate is particularly interested in their genetic material." "The usual approach, then," Han said, more to himself than to Lee. "They'll be eager for what we can teach them. By the time they realize our true intentions, our forces will be in position." He dismissed the hologram with a wave of his hand. Earth disappeared, replaced by tactical displays showing the positions of the hegemony's fleet. 50 warships waited at the edge of the star system, cloaked from Earth's primitive detection systems. Begin monitoring all their communication channels, Han ordered. I want to know everything about their defense capabilities and political weaknesses. Back on Earth, the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council had devolved into chaotic argument. Representatives from 15 nations shouted over one another as Director Kim stood patiently at the podium, waiting for order. This could be a misinterpretation, the Russian delegate insisted. Our own translation algorithms are not designed for alien languages. Or a hoax, added the American representative. We need independent verification. The British delegate leaned forward. If this is genuine, shouldn't we prepare a welcome message? First contact is the most significant moment in human history. Director Kim finally lost her patience. Distinguished representatives, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. While you debate, I've received confirmation from 3 other monitoring stations that have detected the same signals. The translations may be incomplete, but the intent is clear. She tapped her tablet, and a large screen behind her displayed the full signal analysis. These beings, whoever they are, have cataloged our resources, assessed our weapons, and marked us as a target. They are not coming as friends. An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber as the reality sank in. What do you propose? Asked the Secretary General, his face grave. We have perhaps 6 months before they arrive, Kim replied. We must unite our defense efforts immediately and prepare for contact from a position of strength, not naivety. The Chinese representative stood. My government has already begun analyzing the signal patterns. We believe they may reveal weaknesses in the aliens' communication systems. As has mine, added the Indian delegate. Our quantum computing team is working to break their encryption. Slowly, the mood in the chamber shifted from disbelief to resolve. Plans were proposed, resources allocated, and a unified Earth defense initiative was established with unprecedented speed. 3 weeks later, large objects were detected entering the outer solar system. The aliens had arrived earlier than expected. Dr. Park, now heading the communications team for the defense initiative, received the first message from the approaching fleet. It was perfectly translated into multiple Earth languages, speaking of peace, friendship, and cultural exchange. But thanks to their earlier intercepted communications, humans knew better. They responded with diplomatic language of their own, while frantically preparing for the coming storm. The aliens weren't coming to welcome humanity to the galactic community. They were coming to conquer it, and humanity had no intention of making it easy for them. The hegemony vessel hung in the sky above New York, its silver hull reflecting the morning sunlight. The ship was massive, 3 kilometers long and shaped like a smooth arrowhead. Smaller craft surrounded it, ferrying diplomats and cultural attaches to and from Earth's surface. To most humans, the sight was both terrifying and wonderful. Ambassador Choi stood before the United Nations Security Council, his tall, slender figure draped in flowing blue robes that shimmered with subtle patterns. His skin had a pale golden hue, and his eyes were large and dark. When he smiled, which he did often, his teeth looked almost too perfect. We come offering friendship and technological exchange, he announced in a voice that somehow reached every corner of the chamber without seeming loud. The hegemony welcomes Earth into our family of civilizations. The room erupted in applause. After 2 weeks of preliminary communications, this was the first formal meeting between humanity and the alien delegation. Television cameras broadcast the historic moment to billions around the world. As a gesture of goodwill, Ambassador Choi continued, we offer medical technology that will extend human lifespan by 30 years. He gestured to an aide who opened a small case, revealing what looked like silver bracelets. These devices can cure most human diseases and repair damaged tissues. The Secretary General stepped forward to accept the gift, her hands trembling slightly. On behalf of humanity, we thank the hegemony for this generous offering and look forward to peaceful cooperation. 300 kilometers away, in a bunker deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains, Colonel Yoon watched the broadcast with a frown. The command center of Earth's newly formed defense initiative buzzed with activity as analysts monitored every aspect of the alien presence. "Cut the feed," she ordered, and the screen switched to data displays. 24 military and scientific experts turned to face her. "Their technology is far beyond ours," she told her team, pacing the length of the room. "But something doesn't add up. Professor Song, share your findings." Professor Song stood up, a small man with tired eyes who hadn't slept in 3 days. He pushed his glasses up his nose and tapped his tablet, sending images to the main screen. "We've been monitoring energy signatures from all hegemony technology," he explained. "Their devices show unusual power spikes before activation. Look at these readings from yesterday's medical demonstration." The screen showed a graph with sharp energy peaks. The devices themselves don't contain enough power to perform the functions they demonstrate. "I believe they're using some kind of psychic network to control their most advanced systems, a network that connects back to their ships." Colonel Yoon nodded. Which means their technology might have a central vulnerability. If we could disrupt this network, their weapons and ships might become less effective." "That's thin evidence for such a big conclusion," General Wu objected from across the table. "It's not just the energy readings," Song replied. "Their ships maintain perfect formation without visible propulsion adjustments. Their translators work too perfectly, even with languages they couldn't have studied before. Their representatives seem to communicate without speaking." Yoon turned to the room. "Whether Professor Song is right or not, we need more information. Which brings us to Operation Skywatch." The screen changed to show images of the hegemony's orbital station, a wheel-shaped structure where the aliens conducted most of their cultural exchanges with Earth scientists. "Captain Baz's team departed 6 hours ago," Yoon said. "Their mission is to access the station's data systems while posing as technical staff for the exchange program." In orbit, Captain Ba adjusted his breathing mask, trying to appear casual as he mopped the floor of the station's main corridor. 3 other team members were scattered throughout the facility, disguised as maintenance workers. The Earth Hegemony Exchange Program had been running for a week, with selected human scientists allowed limited access to the station. Bai had been chosen for his engineering background and his calm under pressure. Both qualities were being tested now. His real objective was the data terminal in Section 4, but 2 hegemony guards stood nearby, their eyes constantly scanning the area. He continued cleaning, gradually working his way toward his target. The aliens paid little attention to maintenance staff, a human weakness they apparently shared. When the guards finally moved to escort a new group of Earth scientists, Ba slipped into the empty room with the data terminal. He pulled a small device from his pocket, a quantum interface designed by Professor Song to bypass alien security protocols. He had 3 minutes before the cleaning routine would become suspicious. The interface connected with a soft click. Strange symbols flowed across the screen, then transformed into readable text as the translation program worked. Ba's heart froze. He was looking at detailed invasion plans, deployment schedules, target priorities, weapons assessments. According to the data, the full invasion was set to begin in exactly 3 months, after the hegemony fleet had positioned all its forces. New York, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow, London, all marked as primary targets for the first wave. Casualty estimates in the hundreds of millions. He downloaded everything he could, disconnected the interface, and resumed his cleaning duties, mind racing with what he'd discovered. 12 hours later, back in the mountain bunker, Captain Ba delivered his report to a stunned command staff. "We need more time," he concluded, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "According to their tactical assessments, their weapons can level our cities in hours. 3 months isn't enough to prepare any meaningful defense." Colonel Yoon studied the invasion plans on her screen. "Do we have any leverage? Any weaknesses we can exploit?" "Their confidence," Professor Song said suddenly. "They're absolutely certain of victory. That's why they're taking their time, positioning their forces optimally. They don't consider us a threat. That's not much to work with, General Wu grumbled. It's something, Yun replied. If they don't see us as a threat, they won't be looking for resistance until it's too late. Aboard the Hegemony command ship, Ambassador Choi knelt before the holographic image of Admiral Han. The security breach has been confirmed, Choi reported. Humans accessed our tactical database on the orbital station. They know our intentions. Han's expression didn't change. How comprehensive was the breach? They downloaded the invasion timeline and target priorities. They know we plan to strike in 3 months. The Admiral was silent for a moment, considering the implications. The plan had been to lull Earth into a false sense of security, allowing time for the Hegemony's main battle fleet to arrive from the home systems. Have they changed their behavior toward you? Han finally asked. No. They continue to welcome our delegations and eagerly accept our gifts. Either they haven't reviewed the stolen data yet, or they're hiding their knowledge very well. Han's eyes narrowed. Humans are primitive, but not stupid. If they know our plans, they're preparing some kind of response. He reached a decision. We cannot allow them time to organize. Inform our forces in the system. His command was simple. Begin the invasion now. Across Earth, Hegemony cultural attaches received the coded message and moved toward their pre-assigned positions. Orbital weapons platforms, disguised as communication relays, powered up their targeting systems. Transport ships released hidden combat drones. The deception was over. The real test of humanity was about to begin. The first strikes came at dawn. Military bases across the globe erupted in blinding flashes of light as orbital weapons fired from Hegemony ships. Seoul's defense ministry disappeared in seconds, leaving only a smoking crater. Washington's Pentagon followed minutes later. Command centers in Beijing, Moscow, and London vanished before they could organize any response. In New York, people stood frozen in the streets, watching as strange craft descended through the clouds. The sleek, dark ships hummed rather than roared, their movement oddly graceful despite their deadly purpose. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the screaming began. Green beams of energy sliced through buildings, turning steel and concrete into molten slag. Smaller ships released floating orbs that drifted through the streets, scanning for human life signs and firing at anything that moved. "Run! Get underground!" shouted a police officer before an energy beam cut him in half. Across the globe, the pattern repeated. Paris, Tokyo, Mumbai, Cairo, major population centers under simultaneous attack. Civilians grabbed what they could and fled, clogging highways and backroads as they streamed away from the cities. From his orbital command center, Admiral Han watched with satisfaction. The main view screen showed multiple attack zones, each proceeding according to plan. Earth's primitive defense forces were responding exactly as predicted, with confusion and disarray. Pathetic resistance, he commented as a squadron of Earth fighter jets attempted to engage Hegemony craft over what remained of Los Angeles. The human aircraft, advanced by Earth standards, were easily outmaneuvered and destroyed. They scatter like insects. Commander Lee stood at his station, monitoring tactical displays. "Sir, we've achieved 90% success rate on primary targets. Military command structures have been eliminated or isolated." "Excellent. Begin Phase 2, Resource Security Operations." Lee nodded but pointed to several anomalous readings on his screen. "Sir, there's something unusual about their retreat patterns. They seem coordinated." Han glanced at the display showing civilian movement away from major cities. Instead of chaotic flight in all directions, the human exodus followed specific routes, almost like. "Of course they're coordinated," Han dismissed with a wave of his hand. "They're running away. Their emergency services would have evacuation plans." Still, something about the patterns bothered him. Increase surveillance on secondary targets and deploy ground forces ahead of the refugee columns. I want those humans contained. "Yes, Admiral," Lee replied, relaying the orders. Han returned his attention to the main view screen, watching as hegemony dropships landed in city centers worldwide. Victory was proceeding even faster than anticipated. At this rate, Earth would be fully secured within days rather than the projected weeks. What Admiral Han couldn't see was what happened beyond the hegemony surveillance network. 300 meters beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a bunker designed to withstand nuclear attack, Professor Song worked frantically on his prototype device. The small laboratory was crowded with engineers and scientists, all focused on the complex apparatus at the center of the room. "Power levels stable," announced one of the technicians. "Quantum field maintaining coherence." Song nodded, making minute adjustments to the device. It resembled a satellite dish connected to a series of crystal arrays, all pulsing with blue light. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air. "The theory is sound," he muttered, more to himself than the others. "If their technology truly relies on a psychic network for coordination, this should create enough interference to disrupt it." "Should?" asked a nervous assistant. "Nothing about alien technology is certain," Song replied, not looking up from his work. "But we don't have the luxury of perfect knowledge, only the advantage of surprise." In another section of the same facility, Colonel Yoon studied a holographic map showing hegemony troop movements. Red dots indicated alien forces spreading across continents as blue arrows showed human population flow. "They're taking the bait," she said to her staff officers. "Their ground forces are following our civilian evacuation routes exactly as predicted." General Wu frowned. "Those aren't just military decoys out there. Real people are dying." "I know," Yoon replied grimly. "But we couldn't evacuate everyone without tipping our hand. The volunteer defenders in those cities knew the risks." She zoomed in on several blue dots scattered around the map. "Our resistance cells are in position. The underground networks are operational. As long as the hegemony believes they're facing a defeated population in full retreat, we maintain our one advantage." "Which is?" asked a young lieutenant. "They don't know we know," Yoon answered. "They think they're hunting frightened prey. They have no idea they're being lured into a trap." On the surface, the situation appeared dire for humanity. Major cities worldwide lay in ruins. Hegemony forces established beachheads on every continent, expanding outward to secure resources and round up human survivors. In Shanghai, alien soldiers herded captured civilians into processing centers. The aliens stood 2 meters tall, their armor making them look even larger as they towered over their human captives. "Move faster," ordered one soldier in perfect Mandarin, shoving an elderly man who had stumbled. "Resistance will not be tolerated." Unknown to the aliens, among the seemingly defeated prisoners were trained operatives gathering intelligence on hegemony weapons, armor, and tactics. Every detail was transmitted through hidden devices to resistance cells preparing for counterattack. In London, as hegemony forces secured the partially destroyed financial district, they missed the network of tunnels beneath their feet where hundreds of people had taken shelter. Among them were engineers adapting Professor Song's designs into portable disruptor devices. Outside Paris, a column of refugees trudged along a highway under alien supervision. A mother clutched her child, whispering comfort. The child wasn't crying from fear. The tears came from the pain of the transmitter surgically embedded in her teddy bear, broadcasting hegemony communications to a resistance listening post. In what remained of Sydney, alien scientists began setting up resource extraction equipment near the harbor. They paid little attention to the harbor waters themselves, where divers placed explosive charges on the seabed beneath hegemony landing craft. As night fell across North America, Colonel Yoon gathered her command staff in the bunker's conference room. The latest reports from around the world showed the same pattern, apparent human defeat masking careful preparation. "The hegemony believes they've won," she told the grim-faced officers. "They think we're broken and running. That's exactly what we need them to think for another 24 hours. She activated a secure communication link to resistance cells worldwide. Her message was simple and direct. Let them think they've won. Operation Hornet's Nest begins tomorrow. As Yoon ended the transmission, Professor Song entered the room, looking exhausted but triumphant. "It's ready," he announced. "The network disruptor is operational, and the portable versions are being distributed to our forward cells." Yu nodded. "Will it work?" "It already is," Song replied with the first smile anyone had seen on his face in days. "We've been testing it on a limited scale. Their communications are showing signs of degradation, but they think it's just atmospheric interference." "Good," Yoon said. "Because tomorrow, we show the hegemony that humans don't surrender their planet without a fight they'll never forget." At exactly 600 hours UTC, Professor Song pressed the activation key. Around the world, thousands of disruption devices powered up simultaneously. The quantum field generators pulsed, sending invisible waves through the atmosphere and into orbit. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then chaos erupted across hegemony forces worldwide. In occupied New York, alien soldiers suddenly stopped in their tracks, their weapons powered down with a dying whine. Communications devices emitted painful screeching sounds before falling silent. The sleek combat vehicles hovering above streets crashed to the ground, as if invisible strings had been cut. "Command, we've lost network access," shouted a hegemony squad leader into his dead communicator. Around him, his soldiers looked at each other in confusion as their armor systems flickered and failed. From sewers, subway tunnels, and hidden bunkers, humans emerged. They carried a mix of conventional weapons and crude devices built from captured alien technology. What they lacked in technical sophistication, they made up for in numbers and fierce determination. "For Earth," someone shouted as the first wave crashed into the disoriented alien forces. Similar scenes played out globally. In London, Moscow, Beijing, and dozens of other occupied cities, hegemony troops suddenly found themselves cut off from their command structure and facing an enemy they had thought defeated. Aboard the hegemony command ship, alarms blared as system after system reported failures. The holographic tactical displays flickered and died, leaving officers staring at blank screens. "What's happening?" Admiral Han demanded, gripping his command chair as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated. Commander Lee worked frantically at his console, trying to restore basic functions. "Unknown, sir," he replied, sweat beading on his forehead. "We're experiencing widespread system failures across all platforms. Our ground forces report humans emerging from hidden bunkers and attacking with primitive but effective weapons." "Impossible," Han muttered. "Their military was destroyed in the first wave." "Sir," Lee said, his voice tight, "these don't appear to be conventional military forces. They're using guerrilla tactics, hit and run attacks, ambushes, and they've somehow disabled our energy weapons and communication systems." Han stood and marched to the main viewport. Earth hung below, seemingly peaceful from this distance. How could such a primitive species mount an effective counterattack against the hegemony's superior technology? "Switch to backup systems," he ordered. "Isolate critical ship functions from the main network. Deploy our reserves to support ground forces." "The backups are responding slowly, sir." "And," Lee hesitated. "And what, Commander?" "We're detecting multiple small craft approaching the fleet. They appear to be human vessels, but they're moving too fast for their known technology." Han's eyes narrowed. "Activate defense systems. Destroy them before they get close." "Sir, defense systems are offline. We can't." The ship shuddered as something impacted the hull. On the outer skin of the massive hegemony flagship, Captain Bai and his team worked quickly to attach breaching devices to the airlock. They wore modified hegemony environment suits, stolen during earlier raids on smaller alien craft. "Charges set," reported his second-in-command. "Detonation in 10 seconds." Bai nodded, checking his weapon, a hybrid device combining human firearm design with captured alien power cells. Around him, 20 elite soldiers prepared for the most daring assault in human history. The charges exploded silently in the vacuum of space, blowing the outer airlock door inward. Emergency force fields activated, containing the atmosphere inside, But these two were weakened by the disruption field. Ba's team pushed through, engaging surprised hegemony security forces in the docking bay. The aliens' personal weapons were barely functioning, reduced to their most basic capabilities without the psychic network to enhance them. Move toward the command deck, Ba ordered as his team secured the bay. Remember your training. Their physical strength is superior to ours, so maintain distance and use team tactics. They fought their way through the ship's corridors, encountering increasingly desperate resistance. 3 of Ba's soldiers fell to alien counterattacks, but the team pressed forward, using their knowledge of the ship's layout, gleaned from previous intelligence missions, to outmaneuver the defenders. Finally, they reached the bridge. A massive armored door blocked their path. Their systems are vulnerable without the psychic network, Ba said, attaching a hacking device to the door's control panel. The device, built by Professor Song using reverse-engineered alien technology, bypassed the security protocols in seconds. The door slid open to reveal Admiral Han and his command staff, some reaching for weapons, others frozen in shock at the human intrusion. "Nobody move," Ba shouted as his team secured the bridge. "Hands where we can see them." Commander Lee lunged for an emergency control panel but was cut down by precise fire from Ba's weapon. The other aliens slowly raised their hands in surrender. Admiral Han remained seated in his command chair, his expression unreadable. "How?" he asked simply. Ba ignored the question. "Secure the navigation systems," he ordered one of his team. "Download their database. We need the locations of all hegemony forces." "You can't hope to win," Han said. "This is merely a temporary setback. The hegemony will send reinforcements, and your world will burn for this resistance." Ba smiled grimly. "Your reinforcements won't know what happened here, and they won't be prepared for what's waiting when they arrive." On Earth, the counteroffensive gained momentum. Colonel Yoon led a combined force of military units and civilian fighters in the battle to reclaim Seoul. The hegemony troops, cut off from their command structure and with their advanced weapons reduced to basic functionality, found themselves fighting an enemy that knew every street, building, and sewer tunnel. "Push them toward the river," Yoon ordered from her mobile command post. "Don't let them regroup." The aliens retreated step by step, their formation discipline breaking down under constant attacks from multiple directions. Without their tactical network to coordinate movements, each unit fought in isolation, making them vulnerable to human forces that communicated through simple radio systems unaffected by the disruption field. By nightfall, Seoul was largely back in human hands. Similar reports came in from around the world. Moscow reclaimed, London secured, Beijing pushing alien forces into retreat. The hegemony's apparent victory had turned into a stunning reversal. In the mountain bunker that served as Earth's emergency headquarters, General Wu updated the global situation map as reports flooded in. "It's working better than we hoped," he told Professor Song, who watched the display with tired but satisfied eyes. "Their technology is crippled without the psychic network." "The disruption field won't last forever," Song cautioned. "They'll adapt eventually. But it gives us time to study their technology, maybe find permanent countermeasures." A communication officer interrupted with urgent news. "Sir, Captain Bai reports success. His team has captured the hegemony flagship and secured their navigation database." A cheer went up around the command center. For the first time since the invasion began, victory seemed possible. In orbit, Admiral Han sat in a makeshift cell aboard his own ship, now under human control. He had just finished an emergency transmission to Hegemony High Command, requesting immediate reinforcements to crush the unexpected human resistance. The response, when it came, was not what he expected. "Your failure is not worth additional resources," stated the cold voice of High Commander Du. "The Hegemony Council has deemed Earth too costly to subdue at this time. You are ordered to withdraw all remaining forces. No further assistance will be provided." Han stared at the communication device in disbelief. For the first time in his long career, the hegemony was abandoning a conquest. Because of humans, primitives who should have been easily subjugated. As human guards led him away, Han wondered what other surprises this unexpected species might hold. Perhaps the hegemony had made a grave miscalculation in targeting Earth. 6 months after the invasion began, General Yoon stood on a hill overlooking what had once been a hegemony base outside Seoul. The alien structures had been dismantled, their materials repurposed for rebuilding the damaged city. Workers swarmed over the site, adapting alien technology for human use. The last hegemony outpost in Africa surrendered this morning, reported her aide. Earth is officially free of hostile forces. Yoon nodded, feeling a complex mix of pride, relief, and caution. The victory had come at a terrible cost. Millions dead, major cities in ruins, ecosystems damaged by alien weapons. But humanity had survived, and, remarkably, emerged stronger. "Any word from Captain Ba?" she asked. "His team has completed the analysis of the captured command ship. They're ready to present their findings to the United Nations tomorrow." The next day, the General Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every nation. The mood was solemn but hopeful as Professor Song took the podium, looking much older than he had before the invasion. "Distinguished delegates," he began, "6 months ago, we faced extinction. Today, we stand at the threshold of a new era for humanity." Behind him, a holographic display showed detailed schematics of hegemony technology. "The hegemony's faster-than-light drive is now comprehensible to us," Song explained, pointing to specific components. "With the data Captain Ba recovered from their navigation systems, we can build our own starships." Murmurs spread through the hall as the implications sank in. Humanity was no longer bound to its solar system. "Their power generation technology alone will solve Earth's energy crisis," Song continued. "Medical devices adapted from their systems can heal injuries we once thought permanent. But most importantly," he paused, looking around the room, "we now understand the wider galactic community we've joined, including the threats it contains." Captain Ba stepped forward next, still bearing the scars from the assault on the hegemony flagship. The navigation database contained locations of over 300 inhabited worlds, he reported. Many are under hegemony control. Others maintain uneasy independence. The galaxy is not a peaceful place. It's dominated by empires like the hegemony that view less advanced civilizations as resources to be exploited. Colonel Yoon, recently promoted to general, took the podium last. Her uniform was crisp, but her eyes showed the weight of command during humanity's darkest hours. "We can't wait for them to return," she stated bluntly. "The hegemony has retreated, not surrendered. They consider us troublesome now, but once they analyze their failure, they will develop new strategies. Humanity must establish itself as a power they can't simply conquer." She activated a different display showing plans for a massive spacecraft. "This is the HSS Defiance," she explained, "Earth's first interstellar warship, built using hegemony technology, but improved with human innovations. Its mission will be to establish contact with other species subjugated by the hegemony and form alliances. We are not the only victims of their expansion, but we may be the first to successfully resist." The assembly debated for days before approving the Defiance project. Some nations argued for focusing entirely on rebuilding Earth. Others wanted to build a defensive fleet to protect the home planet. But ultimately, the decision to reach out to potential allies won support. 3 months later, the Defiance rose from its construction facility on the lunar surface. The ship combined the sleek lines of hegemony design with distinctly human elements, more crew spaces, redundant systems, and weapons developed specifically to counter alien technology. Captain Ba stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow smaller on the view screen as the ship accelerated toward the edge of the solar system. "FTL drive charged and ready," reported his navigation officer. Bai took a deep breath. "Activate jump sequence. Set course for the Proxima Centauri colony." The stars blurred and stretched as the Defiance made humanity's first faster-than-light jump. Meanwhile, in the hegemony capital system, Admiral Han faced his superiors in the Grand Hall of Judgment. His once pristine uniform had been stripped of rank insignia, and guards stood at his sides. High Commander Du looked down from a raised platform, where the 7 members of the Hegemony Council sat in ornate chairs. "You lost an entire invasion fleet to primitives," Du stated, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "Explain your failure." Han stood straight, his dignity intact despite his disgrace. "Humans are unlike any species we've encountered," he replied. "They don't fight with honor or predictable tactics. They improvise." "Improvise?" asked one council member incredulously. "They adapt quickly, using our own technology against us. They sacrifice immediate advantages for long-term gains. When we destroy their military command centers, they shifted to decentralized resistance. When our technology overwhelmed their weapons, they targeted our network instead of our forces." High Commander Du leaned forward. "Are you suggesting these humans pose a genuine threat to the hegemony?" "I am suggesting," Han replied carefully, "that underestimating them again would be a serious mistake." The Defiance's diplomatic mission proceeded more successfully than anyone on Earth had dared hope. On world after world, Captain Ba found species eager to throw off hegemony control. Some had been subjugated for centuries, their resources exploited, their populations treated as labor forces. At Proxima Centauri, the insectoid Terraxians shared valuable intelligence about hegemony fleet movements. In the Tau Ceti system, the aquatic Mersey offered advanced biological sciences in exchange for human military assistance. The crystalline inhabitants of HD 40,307 grams contributed unique energy manipulation technologies. Within a year, Captain Ba had assembled a coalition of 12 formerly subjugated planets, all united by their desire for independence from the hegemony. Word spread through galactic communication channels about the primitive world that had done the impossible, humans who had forced the mighty hegemony to retreat. Other species began to question their subservience, watching Earth's example with growing interest. The Hegemony Council, facing widespread rebellion for the first time in centuries, reluctantly agreed to diplomatic talks. The meeting took place on a neutral space station at the edge of what was now called Allied Space. Earth's ambassador, a calm woman who had once been a university professor of international relations, faced the hegemony representatives across a table designed to accommodate the various physiologies of all present species. "The hegemony recognizes Earth's sovereignty and that of its allied worlds," stated the alien diplomat grudgingly, pushing forward a data tablet containing the non-aggression pact. As Earth's ambassador signed the document, she smiled at their obvious discomfort. It was not a complete victory. The hegemony still controlled vast regions of the galaxy, but it was an acknowledgement that the era of easy conquest had ended. Back on Earth, cities were rebuilding. New technologies derived from alien science improved daily life in ways previously unimaginable. Hospitals used modified hegemony medical devices to cure diseases once thought terminal. Clean energy powered industry without environmental damage. In a research facility built into the side of Mount Fuji, Professor Song worked with an international team on the next generation of human innovations. They didn't just copy alien technology, they improved it, finding creative solutions the more rigid hegemony engineers had never considered. "The universe is vast," he told visiting students, "and largely indifferent to our existence. But we've proven something important, that determination and ingenuity can overcome even the most overwhelming technological advantages." General Yoon, reviewing plans for Earth's growing defense fleet, reflected on how quickly humanity had adapted to its new reality. From isolated planetary civilization to interstellar power in less than 2 years. The hegemony thought they could invade, she murmured to herself, watching ships under construction in Earth orbit. Humans had other plans. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same. The end.